The war ends, then you see a different story of Frank Capra's life, and of course he's not the only one. A lot of people come back from the war and find that they feel differently about filmmaking. They feel differently about being actors, about being directors, about telling fantasy stories. Of course, the audience also changed, and everything prior to the war is one thing, everything after the war is really something else.
In late 1945, Frank Capra was released from active duty. Joining two of Hollywood's greatest directors, George Stevens and William Wyler, Frank helped create a new production company. The new company would give them total artistic and financial freedom. They called it Liberty Films. After 4 years away at war, Frank wondered if he could still connect to the movie-going public.
How do you translate your vision of text in a way that everybody, no matter what their gender is, no matter what their race is, they get something. They come away with a common experience, their own, that they can relate to. That's the challenge of not a good, but a great filmmaker.
In May of 1946, the new company began their first production. It would become Frank Capra's unquestioned masterpiece.
One night, couldn't sleep, 2:30 in the morning, wandered down, turned on the TV, and had actually missed the credits, so I didn't even know the name of the film. I came on just when the two stars are coming together in the beginning, and they're talking about George Bailey, and just got mesmerized by this film.
I remember the first time I saw it, somebody told me, you're going to go crazy over this movie. You're going to be crying your eyes out. And I thought, yeah, we'll see about that.
Mary, I know what I'm going to do tomorrow and the next day and next year and a year after that. I'm shaking the dust of this crummy little town off my feet, and I'm going to see the world.
The picture itself was such a turning point in his life. I believe that he thought he hadn't been affected by the war as much as he had been.
Come then, Harry, you
Why don't you tell somebody?
I can't wait to see everybody. You really married?
Why, yeah.
Hey, what's a pretty girl like you doing marrying this two-headed brother of mine?
Well, I'll tell you, it's purely mercenary. The father offered him a job.
Oh, we got you in the job. Well, Harry's come running over.
George, about that job, Bruce spoke out of turn. I never said I'd take it. You've been holding the bag here for 4 years, and, well, I won't let you down, George. I would like to... Well, wait a minute. I forgot the bags. I'll be right back.
Surprise to me. This is the new Mrs. Bailey, my nephew's wife.
The inevitable loss of your dreams, loss of your power, feeling a sense of failure, that's something very upsetting to realize. That if you have dreams, you're eventually going to have to give them up in some way.
This is a movie about suicide. It's a movie just laden with thoughts of mortality, of death. And it's an extremely angry movie. And the scene that I always think about in terms of that anger is the scene in which George proposes to the Donna Reed character. It is the craziest proposal ever put on film.
Hi, Sam.
Well, George Baileyovsky. Hey, a fine pal you are. What are you trying to do, steal my girl?
Oh, what do you mean? Nobody's trying to steal anybody's girl. Here's Mary.
The best scene in the whole movie, maybe the best scene in all movies, is when they're on the telephone together.
We can both hear. Come here. We're listening, Sam.
Well, look, I have a big deal coming up that's going to make us all rich.
That scene is a scene where there are so many things going on, but you're never lost.
Money, yeah.
Because he hooks you emotionally.
Sitting down and read it, like, just breathing on each other, you know what I mean? And she's like, she can't move for a second. And there's nothing said, nothing done.
Just two people, the idea that somebody else will have her, how much she wants her. There is nothing more sexual than that.
Well, I'm here.
Will you tell that guy I'm giving him the chance of a lifetime? Do you hear? The chance of a lifetime.
He says it's the chance of a lifetime.
Now, you listen to me. I don't want any plastics, and I don't want any ground floors, and I don't want to get married ever to anyone. You understand that? I want to do what I want to do. And you're...
He is outraged because he doesn't want to really marry her, because he knows if he does, it's the end of his dream of travel, of the great world, of escaping this dreadful little provincial town that he's stuck in.
He didn't want to fall in love, and he fought it, which most of us, I think, do. That's the side of us that is dark, that doesn't want to say things are nice, things are lovely. He always played against the sentiment. You know, he did Norman Rockwell, but look at this side of the painting.
Hey, lady, you got any money in the bank? You better hurry.
George, let's not stop. Let's go.
A minute there. Uh-oh.
Please, let's not stop, George.
I'll be back in a minute, Mary.
The movie doesn't stop for a second. It's like, boom, it's 6 months later. Boom, they're married. You know, boom, there's a run on the bank. He doesn't wait. And the audience is right there. It's knowing that things have to happen faster than real life. It has to be more crammed with detail than real life. The richness of it. You know, alone, that stuff would make him one of the great, great filmmakers.
Look at you. You used to be so cocky. You were going to go out and conquer the world. You once called me a warped, frustrated old man. What are you but a warped, frustrated young man? Miserable little clerk crawling in here on your hands and knees and begging for help. No securities, no stocks, no bonds, nothing but a miserable little $500 equity in a life insurance policy. You're worth more dead than alive.
Frank probably suffered a great deal in life in many different instances. A lot of tragedy occurred in his life. He suffered from guilt. He had depression. He had failures. You cannot make the kind of film he made it without that complexity. Right in the middle of this thing with an angel is this hideous and very disturbing portrait of what life could have been, might even have been, or really was internally for this character.
That's the dark dream of America, isn't it? It's also, considering when it was made and what America looks like now, it's also a remarkably prescient vision. There's some part, again, of George who may realize that whatever he's done is in vain. This America is going to come, and it's not going to be pretty.
Your brother Harry Bailey broke through the ice and was drowned at the age of 9.
That's a lie. Harry Bailey went to war. He got the Congressional Medal of Honor. He saved the lives of every man on that transport.
Every man on that transport died. Harry wasn't there to save them because you weren't there to save Harry. You see, George, you really had a wonderful life. Don't you see what a mistake it would be to throw it away?
In some way, all of our lives are bound in by the obligations we have to others, that's part of being a grown-up and part of being a man, and that there's inevitable pain about that. And there's such truth told in that movie about that humiliation, and yet what you get in return for that humiliation. And I think that's the story of every marriage, finally. It's the story of most careers, in some sense. And you know, he told the truth.
Yeah! Hello, Bedford Falls! Merry Christmas!
It's not that he wins, because he's not really in a much better place. He's still going to have all the same problems, but you realize that's what life is about. You do what's right for your family, what's right for the people around you, what's right for your community.
Let me touch you. Are you real?
What they call his sentimentality, I don't agree with at all. I think that he was an idealist above all. So his endings for me work. But sometimes they're forced endings in the sense that he wants it to work out because he knows better. And he knows that the darker side of nature often triumphs.
To my big brother George, the richest man in town.
It's
It's a Wonderful Life opened in late December of 1946. Its critical reception was, contrary to myth, extremely good, winning 5 Academy Award nominations. For Frank, however, the reviews hardly compensated for the film's lackluster public reception. In the end, It's a Wonderful Life would barely recoup its production costs. It ran for several weeks and then was quickly forgotten.
What really was interesting was how it was rediscovered. It was rediscovered with a passion unbelievable. And never has a film been rediscovered like that. Never was a film grasped with such yearning.
He never made another picture of that level, but then who has?
Liberty Films was already in danger of imminent collapse. Frank and his partners faced onerous tax laws and the slow box office returns that could cripple a small independent like Liberty.
Capra wanted to be what Harry Cohn was, so he had to have a company. But thank God Capra wasn't Harry Cohn. And as big as Capra is, he still needed the Harry Cohn. And that's the mystic of making motion pictures. It's not a one-man operation.
What is it you want, Mary? What do you want? You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down. Hey, that's a pretty good idea. I'll give you the moon, Mary.
I'll take it. Then what?
Well, then you could swallow it. And it'd all dissolve, see? And the moonbeams would shoot out of your fingers and your toes and the ends of your hair. Am I talking too much?
El mensaje del film es sencillo. Todos se interesan por la vida de todos. Eso puede alcanzar a mucha gente. De hecho, teníamos una gran confraternidad. Ya es hora de que el mundo descubra que todos formamos una gran confraternidad.
It's a Wonderful Life es un film clásico. Él decía que era su película preferida. En ella figuraban las virtudes positivas de aquel tiempo. Él era en la calle como en la película y se sabía que con James Stewart las cosas terminaban bien.
Hay algo en esta película que no llego a explicar. Algo que me escapa. Es un film grandioso.